Joe, or
Yeah, good. How are you? I said unmute.
Good, thank you.
hey, everybody?
Marcel?
Kim, was Melissa, she's joining us tonight, right? As far as we know?
As far as I know, yes. I did get a last minute text from Ted
Yeah,
that he's
I saw
unable to
that.
attend.
Okay,
Through the chair, you're live on HCAM TV.
thank you, Bob. So we have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order. So let me start with the remote meeting preamble pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. This meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access the meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting is being recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you have been recognized by the chair. We'll now confirm attendance of commission members and staff. Please respond with present if you're on the call. Ed Harrow,
Present.
Jim Cirillo,
Present.
Janine LeBlanc.
Present.
Okay. Melissa hasn't joined us yet. And Ted will not be joining us tonight. And staff, Kim,
Present.
Anna,
Present.
and Joe Orzel with Lucas Environmental.
Present.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's jump. Well, before we jump into the agenda, for residents who are on the call, we have a few cancellations for tonight's meeting. So Kim has that up on the screen. So Hopkins Stone and Garden has been continued to September 26th. The Toll Brothers hearings have been continued to October 10th. So just want, if you're on the call for either of those hearings or any of those hearings tonight, they've been postponed. Okay. So this is the Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 meeting of the Hopkins Conservation Commission. And we'll jump into work session items. So we have a number of documents for review tonight. 234 Hayden Row, the denial for the order of conditions. 234 Hayden Row, an enforcement order. The Town of Hopkinton, 147 Hayden Row, Lot C, Myrtle Ave, Lot B, Fitch Ave, in order for the resource area delineation. Dominguez, 128 Hayward Street, an order of conditions. Rebel Hill, Fruit Street, denial of an order of conditions. Laborers Training Trust Fund, 37 East Street, an order of conditions. And Toll Brothers, Chamberlain Wayland Subdivision, an enforcement order. So Kim, were there any final comments or thoughts on any of those submittals for the commission?
Yeah, so this was a doozy this week, especially with 2 denial orders of conditions. So I got to everything except for the 128 Hayward Street order of conditions and the Laborers Training Trust Fund order of conditions. Both of those orders of conditions are pretty straightforward at this point, so I will have those drafted by the end of the week in time for the 21-day deadline. If the commission feels comfortable approving me tonight to issue those without seeing the draft, that would be appreciated. That being said, there in the documents for you, we should have found the 2 denials and the enforcement orders. I did just want to highlight the 234 Hayden Row enforcement order for the commission and make sure that you guys found it to be adequate. I tried to keep the emphasis on simplicity here so that the homeowner could complete the restoration. I could focus on the restoration without kind of getting stuck in the muck. That's a denial. Hang on.
Okay, yep, that makes sense, Kim.
Okay. So basically, I just required that the mulch and the filter fabric be pulled back, and that the basically the PIB be reestablished at the original location.
Okay,
I didn't do like a restoration plan or anything like I just wanted wanted to focus on the actual getting that restoration done. So as long as the commission's okay without a formal, plan that's put together by a wetland scientist, I think this should be okay.
okay, yep, I'm fine with that, but I'll open
Okay.
up to comments, questions from the other commission members.
So I have a question through the chair. Under the issuing authority hereby orders the following, number 11, the resource area should be returned to its original condition. So what are we considering the original condition? After the trees were removed? But it was grubs and all the...
Through the chair?
I guess what do we want it to end up being? We want some vegetation in there, right? Not just growing back, or...
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I wrote it. This is kind of like what I was trying to get to. I wrote it as it being the simplest to comply with as possible. So the way that I wrote it is that no additional plantings would be necessary, just because I know that the seed stock there is really robust, and it's a lot of native plantings. I think that it would reestablish itself quite well. I do think it'll reestablish itself as a bit of a wet meadow coming back at this time. So just because I wanted the emphasis to be on compliance without being overly burdensome, that's kind of why I went in that direction. But certainly if the commission feels like there should be plantings or there should be more kind of put into it, that's, that discussion is certainly worth having.
Yeah, no, it's good to know that you think it will come back pretty well. So I'm okay. Thank you.
Jeff?
Yes, Jim.
So I apologize, I got cut off for a moment. I don't know if this was Janine's question, but would it be better to make them plant some native shrubs, leave the wood chips and plant some native shrubs there? Because it's going to grow back, and anybody's going to want to just maintain it, like taking out the invasives.
Yeah, so I think you just kind of came in a little bit late to the discussion we were having, Jim. So Kim,
Yeah, I figured maybe I did.
yeah, Kim's point was she's focusing and the emphasis on compliance without being overly burdensome on the applicant.
Yeah, I
And
got
that,
that.
and
But
that-
condition 9 says remove the filter fabric and the wood chips.
correct.
And I'm just wondering if it might be
Yeah.
better.
Kim's position is that, the seed stock out at the site is fairly robust. So, it should grow in fairly well, once the
Okay.
landscaping fabric and wood chips are pulled back.
Okay. I
That
missed
makes
part.
sense.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any questions or comments additionally from the commission on any of the documents for review? Okay, if I can get a motion to approve all of the documents for review, and to have Kim sign on behalf of the commission members present,
So moved.
and a second,
I'll second.
and we'll do the roll call votes. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Okay, minutes for review, June 6th, 2023. Any questions or comments?
Through the chair?
Yes, Kim.
Jeff, I apologize. I didn't get to those. Those are at the bottom of the priority list.
Oh, good, because I was
Okay.
going to say, I couldn't find them.
Next
Okay.
time.
Okay, all right. Yep, no problem, Kim. So Hopkinton Trails Committee, the next item 3 on the work session. Chamberlain Whalen Extension exemption request.
Okay, Jeff, I have something to start off with before we go anywhere.
On this item?
Yeah, on this item.
Yep, go ahead.
Here's what it is. I think the applicant made a mistake because as far as I know, there is no organization known as the Hopkinton Trails Committee. So since it doesn't exist, they can't possibly submit any application or request. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that committee doesn't exist.
Well, it is being renamed. I don't know if it's officially
Doesn't
approved
matter.
yet.
It's not official. It is not an organization that has been established. So if it's TCMC that's making the request, then TCMC should make the request. But there is no Hopkinton Trails Committee.
Well, let's,
I mean, I think the application needs to be resubmitted by a party that really exists.
okay, so I think the application is going to be the same. It's just who's submitting it, right? So if we can have Kim kind of walk us through what the request is here, and then we can ask Peter to resubmit under the appropriate committee name. I don't think the substantive,
Yeah, I agree.
so does that make sense, Kim?
Does. I try to stay out of the nuances of the trails folks. So this application was signed from the Hopkinton Trails Committee. So I registered it as from the Hopkinton Trails Committee.
There is no committee.
Got it. Okay. So Kim, if you want to walk us through it, and then
Yeah.
we can vote, on the exemption request, and then we, under the condition that it's resubmitted under the appropriate committee name by Peter.
Yep. So there's a proposal to create a trail system that's going to connect the new Chamberlain Whalen or Edgewood at Hopkinton neighborhood to the center trail and the schools complex. So a future notice of intent will cover this portion of the trail that my mouse is highlighting, which is going to be an earthen stone dust trail. And this request for exemption is covering this portion of the trail, which I'm highlighting, which connects up to this field. There's 2 crossings of bordering vegetated wetlands here that there are trail bridges proposed for, similar to that of the other crossings that we have previously approved. And I think Peter Lagoy was going to be on to speak to it as well. I'm not sure if he was able to connect. He was feeling a little under the weather. But certainly, I went out there with Mr. Lagoy and Charles Dachi, I think it was about a month ago, and took a look at these areas. They don't carry any flow, so I'm not worried about bankful flow. And, I think that the crossings are made to the minimum width possible. And are appropriately designed and to span as much of the BVW as possible. A boardwalk, that's what I was looking for, not a bridge, a boardwalk crossing.
Okay.
Can you put that map back up, please, Kim? So then in the bottom left is a block that says earthen trail subject of request for exemption. So it's that entire orange, hashed orange line, right?
I was under the impression that it was just this section.
Well, that's not where the arrow points to.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Peter Lagoy is on this.
He's not on. Oh, he's coming in right now, actually. Hold on a second, Kim. He's just entering now. Peter? Peter Lagoy.
Through the chair, this is Ed Harrow. Someone
Yes,
has
Ed.
background noise that's a bit annoying, and I wonder if whoever's got the background noise could make it go away.
Yep, thank you. Peter, are you on the call? I guess he isn't. I thought he was just coming in.
Let me unmute myself. Yes, I am.
Okay, hi, Peter. Good evening.
Yeah.
So there was a quick question for you on the proposed project here.
Yep.
Kim, sorry, can you just repeat what it was, please?
Yep. So
Uh,
Peter, is the scope of the exemption, does it include this section of the trail here? Or just the section of the trail which leads over to the field? Or both?
Both of those sections, as I understand it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's just that this section doesn't have a crossing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the original development plan had their trail going through that wetlands that's to the west there. But because the area to the right is town land, but we were able to put it on town land and kind of works out for everybody. It doesn't have to go through wetlands and, it's in a better spot for us. So yeah, it's out of the wetlands. It's in an upland area there.
Okay. The other question, Peter, was that was raised was this exemption request was filed by the Hopkinton Trails Committee. Is that an official committee at this point in town?
Oh, Trails Coordination and Management Committee. Officially, we are known, abbreviated as TCMC and as Trails Committee. I got Norman signed off on that.
Who signed off on that?
Norman, about a year or so ago. I was making some signs and I said, we need something shorter than Trail Coordination and Management Committee. So he agreed to that. But the official name is Trail Coordination and Management Committee at this point. Yeah, so do you want me to briefly go through it, or are you generally good?
Yeah, I think we're generally good, Kim. Is that your kind of thought at this point? Kim
Okay.
walked us through what you were proposing, Peter.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different from when you were out there with us, Kim, is that section past field 13 with the trail is that tighter dotted line is to the north, and that was in response to the neighbors' concerns. We walked it with them. The eastern crossing staying where it was. The western crossing, we're moving to the north. It's a little bit further. It's a little bit further of a crossing, but it's further away from that house. And again, when we were out there, you can't see the houses during the summer, but the neighbors certainly were concerned for the wintertime.
Hi, I'm one of the neighbors. I was wondering if this would be an appropriate time to comment.
Yes. Can we get your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is James Cook, K-O-C-H. I live at 44 Chamberlain Street.
Okay.
And I do appreciate the proposed alternative to go further north. When we walked it, it was certainly possible to see the homes from the previous proposed route, even in the summertime. So we would appreciate the distance from my home and the home next to me with the new proposed more northern route. And it was great to work with Peter and Chuck to try to lay that out. So I appreciate its consideration.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. The only other thing I'd say is that while I'm doing the presentation, Chuck did all the work on this. So, I signed it, but he did everything. So that was really appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for, to both of you for, putting this together. Obviously a lot of thought went into it. So we appreciate all the efforts that you guys do on this particular project and the other ones in town as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments from commission members? Any other questions or comments from the public? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, if I can get a motion to approve the exemption request for the Hopkinton's Trail Committee for the Chamberlain Wayland Extension Trail.
So moved. This is Ed.
And
Second.
the second. Yep, Janine did the
Yep.
second, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Have a good evening.
Rest of your evening.
Okay.
Excuse me, could I ask, does that mean it was approved with the alternative route?
Yes,
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Okay, moving along, Yo 7 Cubs Path. This is a continuation of a notice of intent for an addition. Do we have the applicant or a representative of the applicant on the call?
Yes, this is Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting representing the applicant.
Good evening, Mitch.
It doesn't look like my camera's working, but I can at least go over what I've submitted to help Han Yo, the applicant, get a proposed addition onto the back of his house in replacement of his back deck. So today, I just sent in revised plans and responses to Lucas environmental comments. So I'll just go through the responses in order, I guess. So first, Ellie had asked for flag 4A and 3A to be looked at to see if another flag could be placed up gradient. So I went out there and hung a flag in between those two, just up gradient of that area. It did have some hydric soils and wetland veg, so I hung it up there. So also just to give you some background on this project. So Goddard Consulting just got put on this project sometime after the previous hearing on August 8th to help with some of the wetlands related topics. So we've only had this in front of us for about a month. So we've gone out there, did our site evaluation, and had Scott, the professional land surveyor, go out there and adjust the plans for Han. Also on the plan, Scott had added the siltation detail that the Lucas Environmental and the Commission had requested. So there's a detail on the plan showing what the silt fence looks like and how to entrench it. And then, like you were just showing up higher on the screen, they changed the line weight so that it's easier to see where the erosion control barrier is on the plan. So that'll encompass the work area pretty well with the chain link fence area. It'll be pretty well contained. So additionally, when we first saw this, there was only one wetland boundary shown, marked as the wetland B boundary. So wetland flag WF1B through, I think, 9 up to the top right hand side of the screen. And so when I went out there, I went over to the left side. There's a detention pond, and then to the west of that, there are bordering vegetated wetlands. So I tied in a flag with the old flag series 1A, and I hung a flag C1. So off to the left side of the screen. Yep, that whole left side was delineated as bordering vegetated wetland, and then it's a pretty clear break and slope up to the berm of that detention pond. Yep, perfect. So I did DEP data sheets for that wetland delineation. So now you guys have that in your file. So that was also requested because the initial application didn't have the DEP wetland data forms. So another comment was a request for a construction sequence. So I worked with the contractor to see what their idea was for their construction sequence, and then I beefed it up with some stuff the commission would like, first thing off is install erosion control in accordance with the approved plans here. And then where they're going to access the construction area via the driveway, it's the most logical spot to drive down the driveway and access the back of the house to tear down the deck. And that'll give them access to where they're going to install the underground infiltration chambers for stormwater. So they'll excavate that with a mini excavator, dig down, install the unit, backfill, seed or loam and seed to restabilize that area as back to its lawn condition. And then once that's installed, they'll construct the house addition, tie it into the infiltration unit, and then restabilize the area by, re-putting the patio back together in its initial footprint and reseeding any disturbed lawn areas as lawn. So no natural vegetation is going to be impacted by this project. The next thing was updating the Wetland Protection Act Form 3. The form had initially had checks all for all the resource areas, but I just went and made sure that all those were unchecked and that it's just going to be a buffer zone project. I also included the bylaw related forms that you guys have, like the supplemental Form 3, which basically just went into how many square feet in the 50-foot buffer zone we're impacting. So in there, it was going to be, I'm just pulling it up now, 150 square feet. And there's no permanent structures in there. It's just to put the infiltration chamber into the ground. There's going to be some probably some soil disturbance just down gradient of that when that'll creep into the 50-foot buffer zone, but that's just lawn at this point. So it's really just putting the erosion control around and then backfilling, reseeding, and it'll remain lawn in the end. And then the remainder of the area, I calculated just roughly how much area they're actually going to be disturbing for this construction to put that back house addition in. And then shortest distance between limit of project disturbance and wetland resource area boundary is 36 feet. But the closest structure is the underground infiltration unit at 50 feet. There are my wetland forms. And then Lucas asked for a updated Hopkinton Wetlands protection bylaw fee calculation worksheet. So I updated that just to match up with the checks that were submitted previously. So that should cover all the forms that were submitted. I believe that's all that was requested now. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, please let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mitch. So Joe, I know this was submitted today. Did you get a chance to go through these comments?
Yeah, only very briefly, kind of as we were sitting here right now. It looks like most were addressed. I can't comment on the new delineation flags, so I haven't seen those in the field, but I would agree that it's a fairly well-defined toe slope along the berm of that detention basin. So those in general look like they're probably in the right spot, but I can't comment specifically on those. See.
Will that have a material kind of impact on, what's being proposed here? Probably not, right?
It would just potentially bump the buffer zone, up or back. And they're limit of work is outside of the 50-foot. It looks like there. So I don't think it would have
Yeah.
an impact. I don't think it would move that much based on the topo out there.
Yeah, the limit of work looks like it's, I don't know what the scale on this is, but I don't know, 20, 25 feet from maybe, 10 or 15 feet from the
50-foot.
yeah.
Yeah, probably somewhere in that range. Yeah, and I would think probably that based on the topo that the delineation would probably not be off by that much. But like I said, I can't comment definitively on that.
Okay.
Let's see. I know I had a comment regarding that the site was in ORW, and the corner of the site was mapped in ACEC, and had requested that the ACEC boundary be shown. Although there's no work, it looks like it's in the western corner of the site is where the ACEC, I believe, is apparently located. But had noted that the commission might want the ACEC boundary to be shown on the plan. I was just looking at very quickly the BVW forms. They did submit the new forms. I had a couple of questions on those. I know on the upland form, the vegetation passed the dominance test as a wetland, but they did the follow-up test, the fact neutral test, essentially. And generally, you only do the third level test when you have upland vegetation with, but you have wetland soils or other wetland indicators. If you meet the dominance test, then it's considered wetland vegetation. You don't go to the third step. Had a comment on PIB markers. I don't know that there's any PIBs located on the plan, or if the tree line was added to the plan. I just mentioned that those were not shown previously. And then there was also a response about the water from the pool will not be discharged on site, but just didn't indicate where the proposed discharge would be.
So proposed discharge, they would need to get a water truck and haul off site if they're to comply with that condition. So that's what I would tell Han is to, if he's ever to discharge the water from the pool, just hire the pool company to haul the water off site.
Yeah, well, I mean, how realistic is that, really? And if you draw down the pool a couple feet in the wintertime, I mean, is they going to hire someone to come in and remove it, or is it just going to be pumped out?
And I through the chair, in my review memo, I had noted that with some photographs, it looked like they had been possibly discharging or from the filter onto the site, which is why I had noted that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
this is
Mitch.
Han. This is Han. I'm the owner of the house. Yeah, I removed that discharge, and then for the pool, I have no idea. I'm thinking to fill up the pool because this pool is not what we want. But what I want to say is this pool is here when we bought the house. That was, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years ago, and then we don't really use the pool, and then I don't know what to do with this, but I already removed that blue plastic or rubber tube. So I already removed everything, and then yes, that's again, like I said last time in the last town meeting, I asked what should we do, what should I do, and then I was told there's a discharge. When they build the pool, there should have a discharge. I talked to Crystal Pool in Bellingham. They will send someone to my house and see is there a way or is there something installed? I don't know. I'm waiting for them to come to my house to take the survey.
Yeah, I mean, I think from it's probably more practical to have a dry well put in, to the west of the house somewhere, or northwest outside the buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess, it's it's within the 50 to 100, but like in an area that's, previously, a lawn area or something like that. Just it's going to be cheaper, I think, in the long run to do that than to have to hire someone to come in and take the water out, every year.
Yeah, like I say, I talked to Crystal Pool, and then I'm waiting for them to come and then give me any solutions that they can think of. Again, we don't know how to do with this pool. Yeah, and then I'm waiting for them to come. But what I want to say is, again, this pool water has nothing to do with my permit. I really need my kitchen to be built. It has been. I want it to be done before winter, because the winter we cannot do anything. But yeah, for the pool, like I said, I talked to Crystal Pool. They will send someone to my house to take a look and then give me any proposed solutions.
Okay, so would you be agreeable to a condition that a dry well will be put constructed at the site for the pool water discharge, in an area that's agreed to? You can review it with Kim. Is that?
Can I mention something? This is Melissa.
Yes, go ahead, Melissa.
I mean, he's putting in an infiltration system for the roof. Couldn't he just pump it there?
Yeah.
Into that system that he's building already anyway?
Yep.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, Melissa. So that could be the discharge point for the pool.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, Kim, is there anything else?
Sorry, it's me again. I just one more thing was mentioned. One thing brought up was the grass clip. I start to remove them from the area where I dump it. So I start to put it in the bag, and then I still need a few days to clean up. But yeah, I have started cleaning it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Han. We appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Through the chair?
Yes. Kim.
So just two clarification questions. So this is my first time kind of reviewing the updated plans as well. The silt fence erosion control, honestly, I'm still having trouble following as to where it's actually located based on the symbology, because this is the chain link fence that's around the pool. Is the silt fence just here on the Coltec? Is it, and then the chain link fence is acting as the erosion barrier? Like, I guess I need some clarification here.
So the erosion control is the dark line with the X, and then it does connect over to that chain link. You can kind of see the topo there on the right side. I'll talk about the right side first, where the over there. So that where that topo is, there's a little high spot. So it ties in there at a good spot where erosion shouldn't be an issue getting around there. If you want us, we can, just add a little extra, because that's patio right there. So maybe we could add like a little section of mulch stock or something just to add onto the patio if that's a concern. But and then over on the left side, that guy should tie into that chain link fence right at that. There's a retaining wall there, and that's another high spot in the area. So I'm pretty confident that once the erosion control goes in, that it'll be well contained.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. My second question is in regards to PIBs. So I'm not really seeing any PIB locations proposed on the plan. And I do think it's something that the commission needs to consider, because it does look like, based on the photos and the plan, there is this chain link fence, which has close proximity to the BBW. It does look like there's definitely some tree vegetation that's remaining in this area, so it's not being maintained as lawn area. But it does look like the understory is being maintained and it's being used somewhat for storage, just based on the photos. So, establishing PIBs, I think, is an important part of this. I wasn't sure how the commission or the applicant felt.
Sorry,
No,
which side is for the storage? Can you show the picture? Yeah, this is not mine. This is my neighbor's. My neighbor's is the property line.
Gotcha.
The
Is
kayak.
that
Yeah, this is behind my. No one go over there. It's just
that's the basin, and then that's the fence. Okay.
Yep. And then if you go back to I think the first picture you show with the kayak, it's not mine, it's my neighbor. It's on the other side, the property line.
Gotcha. Okay. So I don't know, if the commission does want to establish some type of PIB in front of this fence, or how that you want that to be addressed.
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
Yep. Yeah. I agree with Kim that while trees remain in the buffer zone area, there was some clearing of understory vegetation. As you saw, maybe some of the photos, it's pretty open underneath the trees.
We should also keep in mind that the applicant's property, is actually ends here.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah. So I guess where would the appropriate location for the PIBs, kind of along the property line there, Kim?
Good question. I've always envisioned PIBs as, being more of a barrier, more of a visual indication of, resource area, rather than property. But certainly we can't use PIBs to encourage invasion of private property rights. So.
Right. So is the chain link fence that goes beyond the property boundary, does that belong to the property owner?
My best guess from my evaluation is that might be highway, the highway department, because it's a large fence, very tough to get over 6 feet tall. And then it continues well off the site and then past,
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, it looks like it was a highway fence.
Yep. All right. I mean, I don't want to, I hate to push this off to the next meeting, Mitch, but I think, you need to kind of put your head together with the property owner and just, come up with, some PIBs that, make sense here on the property. And that will allow, I think the only other item that we discussed was the ACEC boundary, identified on the plan. There are a couple kind of administrative type things that Joe had mentioned regarding the application, but does that make sense, Mitch?
Just one question about the PIBs. Are you talking like little survey iron rods being struck into the ground perhaps, or like with a little Hopkinton emblem on it?
Yeah, that'd be up to you guys. There's a number of different PIBs that, it's really up to the applicant on what he wants. It can be a split rail fence. It can be, posts in the ground with the medallion on it. It can be a stone wall. You know, it's really up to the applicant on what they would prefer.
Sorry, what is PIB?
It's a permanent immovable barrier. So it's a demarcation on your property that's identified so that there's no disturbance beyond that location, you know, into the wetland buffer zone.
Can you show me where is that? Where are we talking about on this map?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we don't really know
Because for me it's the fence, right? The fence I live here for five and a half years maybe. No one crossed over that fence, like like me.
Yeah, I think it's really up to your consultant to recommend, you know, the best place to put it. Because
Jeff, I think for my own clarification, I think we might need to provide some direction because are we talking about the chain link fence that goes around the pool? Is that what the commission would expect? If it's treed from that chain link fence to the highway chain link fence? And is it already disturbed within the chain link fence to the pool?
Yeah, so inside the chain link fence, what I remember is, some landscaping and then patio and pool. Outside the chain link fence, you have tall trees, and the understory, it looked like a couple of witch hazels had been cut down, and by the time I was out there, they'd already grown back up, to my waist height. So there's only, a little 20-foot stretch between his pool fence and the highway fence. And so I don't know, would it be okay if he just put something on his pool chain link fence saying, beyond this area is, it's within the 50-foot buffer zone to wetlands, maybe could we just put a couple of emblems on that chain link fence, and that'll remind Han that beyond there is basically no touch.
That's what I am thinking, because that's a pretty nice permanent barrier as it is. And just memorialize it with the medallions, and if that's how that's kind of the existing condition today.
yeah, I'm good with that, Melissa. Kim, does that make sense to you?
Well, through the chair, doesn't that just cover sort of one side? What about the side of the house that the pool's not on? If it's the fence, then the permanent movable barrier is going right into the stairs.
So the detention pond is a pretty clear. Well, when you're out there,
Okay.
you can see the detention pond there. Yeah.
Through the chair, I would agree that detention pond is very obvious and marker and pretty wet. So although I know the property owner did inquire when I was on the site as far as maintenance of that pond, who would be responsible for that. So that might be something to consider or discuss.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I did ask the town, and then I did talk to my HOA. We have no idea who should maintain that detention pond. So
To the chair,
Yes, Kim.
our records do indicate that that pond is owned by the HOA.
Okay.
yeah, thank you. I talked to HOA. They say it's not. So I'm lost. So this is something I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to provide what paperwork we have.
Thank
It's
you.
not uncommon that HOAs are not always aware of the infrastructure that they own, so it's not totally uncommon. We're happy to help understand, what is owned and what's required for maintenance.
Thank you.
So I guess the question is, do we need PIBs on that portion of the property as well? Joe, is it your view that, the detention pond is, sufficiently obvious that, it's not going to be disturbed?
Yeah, unless there's some, maintenance activity that goes on in the pond. It was growing in with trees and things. And so I think the berm is certainly obvious on the far side. a couple of markers could be placed along that berm.
Yeah, it might get a little funny as the HOA and the DPW figure out how to, the MS4 permit and who's going to maintain this basin. I'm sure that's going to be a conversation that comes up in the next year. And I don't know if you want medallions on that side of the basin, if it's going to be maintained, and then people are confused. So I can't maintain that basin because the Concom put medallions there, which isn't necessarily true. I don't know that, I think it's something probably to flag for discussion later, but not tied to this project. I think it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, that's a good point, Melissa. We don't want to prevent maintenance, right, by putting medallions up. Okay, so I think if we put them along the chain link fence for the pool, that seems reasonable to me. And I'll just open it up to the other commission members on their thoughts. All right, Kim, I guess, do you feel comfortable if we voted on this contingent on a revised plan being submitted, identifying the PIBs along that chain link fence and the ACEC boundary?
I do. Yep. And I'll put in a special condition that the pool is to be discharged to the Coltech dry well.
Right. Yep. That as well. Great. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the public on this? I don't see any hands raised. Okay. If I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for 7 Cubs Path with the special conditions noted.
So moved. This is Ed.
And a second, please.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Okay, Milford Water Company, 0 Echo Lake. This is a request for determination of applicability for dam improvements, which is being continued from the last meeting.
Yes, hello. I'm Dave Coet. I'm managing engineer with Park Corporation representing the Milford Water Department. We have Lauren Gluck on with us. She's a senior environmental scientist with Park.
Yep, good evening, folks.
Good evening.
So I think there was just a couple items that we were looking for to close this out. And Kim, were those, I think those were provided, correct?
Yeah, so I took a look at the response and I felt good about the responses to Lucas Environmental's comment letter from last time. Joe, obviously feel free to chime in if you felt differently. I did have one remaining question. I was just hoping that the applicant could clarify the fence. There were still some questions about the fence, its extent, what resources it went into, and then its necessity. Just some additional clarification for me. And if you need to grab the screen, just let me know.
Yep. And also I wanted to say that David Condry with Milford Water Department is also on right now as well. So the fence, I guess, so the fence is basically being installed around the perimeter of the site. They've had issues with people coming down off the hills and in the slopes and fishing off of the dam and accessing the dam. And it's a tall masonry structure. It's not really fit for public use. So the fence would be going around the perimeter of the site. There are areas on the upstream sides where we have the fence jutting out into the water, and our plan is basically to mount the posts in existing bedrock outcrops out there. So core, some 3 or 4 inch diameter holes, fit the posts in there, and then kind of have the fence project out over the water. And that is basically to stop people from just being able to simply get around the edge of the fence during periods of lower water. But the plan is there's on the, so looking at this on the east side, we have a call out for a cantilever fence. That whole edge over there is all bedrock outcrop. And then over on the west side, it's all kind of exposed rocks and boulders over there that we plan on mounting the fence posts into.
Yes, and the resource area impacts of the fence are fairly minimal. Most of the fence runs up gradient of the bank, kind of just along that tree line there. And then in the northern extent where it's bordering the pond, it does take a turn inward toward the water, going slightly below the high water mark of the pond, but it's all bedrock outcrops in that area. So there's no, bottom sediments or anything like that being disturbed, and no vegetation being cleared.
Okay, does that answer your question, Kim?
It does. Thank you.
This is David. Just so you know, part of the improvements was also to make it safer for my staff, because we periodically go up there on top of the dam to take drawdown measurements for the dam itself, for the reservoir itself. So we're going to improve that top section to make it safer to be up there. And we just know that it will be more inviting for those that have been on top of it before. So we're just trying to keep as much of the traffic out of there as possible.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, questions, comments from commission members? Questions or comments from the audience?
Through the chair?
Yes, Kim.
Just want to pass it to Joe to make sure that he's satisfied as well.
Yeah, no, Kim. I thought that the comments were all adequately addressed. And the one issue was whether it was BVW or bank. I think under the bylaw definition of bank, it as the higher of the mean annual flood level or break and slope, it clearly would qualify as bank. So I had no additional comments.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to.
That's right.
Yep. And thanks for that reminder, Kim. Okay. If I can get a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for the Milford Water Company 0 Echo Lake, the dam improvements.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, Janine, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, moving back down to work session items. Jackson 132 Clinton Street, a request for a 3-year extension permit. Kim, did you want to give us a little bit of background on this, please?
Yep. So this is the amended notice of intent request for 132 Clinton Street. It's a single family home. There was actually a fire there. So the applicants are waiting for insurance to come through and kind of figure out where they're going to go next. So they're requesting a 3-year extension. I would recommend granting in this condition.
All right. Questions, comments from the commission? I think it's pretty straightforward. Questions or comments from the audience? We can get a motion to approve the request for the 3-year extension permit for 132 Clinton.
So moved.
And a second.
Second, this is Ed.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Right. Dominguez, 128 Hayward, a request for certificate of compliance. Kim, did you want to give us a little bit of background on this, please?
Sure. So this notice of intent was for the construction of a single-family home. The commission recently considered a notice of intent application for a pool in the back in the same house, you will recall. As part of that filing, Lucas also reviewed their simultaneous request for COC. The comments were that the proposed area to be restored was never completed, but that the proposed area for restoration is vegetated nicely with native plants. So no additional restoration is recommended. The PIB post rail fence was not installed at that time, but was approved as part of the new swimming pool application. There's a large pile of wood branches that should be removed. And that is the end of the comments. So I did reach out to the applicant to see if the branches were removed, and the applicant's representative wasn't sure that that was completed. It is something that I can follow up on as part of the COC process under the new notice of intent. So at this point, I would recommend kind of closing out this older certificate of compliance for the original construction of the house.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Questions, comments from the commission? Questions or comments from the public? Okay, if I get a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 128 Hayward Street.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. E.L. Harvey, 35 Parkwood Drive. This is a certificate of compliance request for E.L. Harvey. This was the release of motor oil that happened a few months back. And we have the Lisa, who is the LSP for Clean Harbors, on the call. Lisa, did you want to give us a little bit of background, please?
Through the chair, this is Ed. We've got oodles of background noise again. I can barely make out what you are saying.
Yep, sorry, Ed. So we have Lisa from the LSP from Clean Harbors, who oversaw the cleanup activities at the project. Lisa, did you want to give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, I can run through things just really quick. It was a estimated 10-gallon hydraulic oil release. It impacted a bit of soil, pavement, and flowed into a catch basin that was then discharged during a rain event to a outfall area, which extends down to a border vegetated wetland. The impact has been remediated. We've removed some soil and skimmed some liquid at the outfall, some water at the outfall. The absorbents were put in and maintained until there was no persistent sheen, although there was a sheen afterwards that we concluded was a biological sheen. During our last meeting, I discussed that, but we were looking to close out the order of conditions with a certificate of compliance at this point.
Okay, so was there an IRA completion report that was submitted, Lisa?
Yes, correct. The response has been completed. An IRA completion report and permanent solution statement has been submitted to the Mass DEP under release tracking number 2-22169.
Okay, was that provided? Kim, did you receive that for our project file? Just want to confirm.
I did. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, Kim, Joe, did you have any additional comments or questions?
No, everything, I did a site inspection, everything looked good. It was well stabilized, no erosion issues. The erosion control barrier had been removed. I didn't see any deviations from the order of conditions. And I did note that that biologic sheen is still present, but as we had determined before, it's a biologic sheen. It really broke up pretty easily when you poked it with a stick. So I didn't have any comments beyond that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kim, any?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did have one comment.
Yeah.
The sketch plan was not stamped. However, there was no, the order of conditions did not require a stamp on the COC plan. So I just wanted to know.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Joe. I think we're fine for this, for this project. It doesn't need to be stamped.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, questions or comments from the commission? I think it's pretty straightforward. Questions or comments from the audience? Okay, if I can get a motion to approve the certificate of compliance, the certificate of compliance for 35 Parkwood Drive.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
And the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed, and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you all.
Okay, have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Okay. So moving along, Wall Street development. This is a violation discussion, but I don't. Mr. Petrosi isn't on the call here, Kim. So I think we are going to have to punt this to the next meeting.
So we're
through the chair.
Yes, Anna.
Lou did reach out that he had another meeting and would join us as soon as he was able to. So I don't know if you want to just push him to the end and see if he comes.
Okay, yeah, why don't we do that? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Toll Brothers, Chamberlain Whalen. I think Mr. Merchant is on the call. Or is someone from Toll Brothers on the call? Toll Brothers, going once, going twice. Okay.
Through the chair?
Yes, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to Toll Brothers. And actually, Anna's probably reminding me right now, Ted Merchant has reached out to us and told us that his wife is expecting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think.
So I think we can give him a little bit of latitude in that.
Yeah. That he maybe got called otherwise. I can certainly provide an update.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. Just give me a minute. I had pulled up all of the Petrosi information.
I'm expecting to live to 90.
Okay, so just some photos and then I can kind of run you through. So from the last time that we spoke to Toll Brothers, my main concern was a handful of lots, and basically sedimentation from lots that were not stabilized was overwhelming the perimeter erosion controls and depositing turbid water into the no disturb zone or vegetated wetlands. So since our last meeting, lot 5 has been stabilized with sod, which works quite well. There was a temporary BMP installed on lot 4, which we have observed is catching a lot of the water and working well. There's a photo of the temporary BMP. There's a lot of iron that comes out of a hillside seep over in this area as well, which is interesting. That's why you get that red color. And I think this is lot 5 was hydroseeded and stabilized. This is a channel between lots. It's around lot 11. that has had a lot of erosion issues that has been picking up sediment and depositing it to one of the detention basins. So this was sodded, which seems to have really fixed the problem there. I was disappointed to see that one of the lots 12, that we've been concerned with was not addressed. So that remained to be unsecured, loose soil. There was check dams installed. That was the same condition as the last meeting. And then here's the foundation drain that kind of empties into this low spot, which is the spot where we have the violation issues.
Mm-hmm.
Lots 24 and 26 Wayland Road were secured. So they had been hydroseeded. The hydroseed is actually starting to take. Hydroseed is doing spectacularly all around town right now because of all of the rain. And they definitely sprayed a good heavy amount of hay. And then you'll see this orange fencing that was installed. I think that we had spoken about creating a work envelope. I think that is the intent here, to create a work envelope around the structure for contractors to work in, so that there's designated work area and designated area where they're looking to get better stability. So definitely some improvements here. No new violations. I did write up a draft enforcement order, which you guys just ratified, that requires that stabilization method, and also requires that the applicant remove sedimentation deposited into resource areas by hand and have that be observed by a wetland scientist.
Okay. Okay. But all in all, other than lot 12, which remains unstable, you're happy with what's been implemented at the site, Kim?
I am. There have been a lot of improvements. I think if Toll Brothers stays the path and keeps up with things, they're going to be in much better shape. It's just a matter of, stabilizing as you go and making an effort to keep a tight and clean construction site.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Questions or comments from commission members?
Good.
Okay, so why don't we just kind of keep the monitoring ongoing for this one, Kim. See if we can get them to stabilize lot 12 and kind of keep an eye on things here, as construction progresses. We can have a discussion with Mr. Merchant at a future meeting, based on, site conditions going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, we will see Mr. Merchant at a future meeting for the other filings, and we can, address it with him at that point if necessary.
Okay. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The trails, unfortunately, Mr. Bemis and Mr. Gately are not on the call, Kim. But did you want to give us an update on this project?
Sure. That is disappointing. I did reach out to them today with a reminder. I understood that they intended to be here. So let me pull up some information. At the last meeting, we considered a draft fine memo, which I wrote up. That is not the right fine memo. Sorry, hang on.
They did submit some, while Kim's looking for that. Peter Bemis did submit some information to Kim since the last meeting. I guess, Phil was on vacation, so he didn't really get a chance to look at it. But Melissa, was gracious enough to take her own time to kind of go through it on behalf of the commission and lend her expertise to us. There are a number of questions that came up that Melissa had identified as part of her review, which was, a little frustrating. But I guess Phil hasn't had a chance to look at it. But we did provide these comments that Melissa had to engineering design consultants. Engineering design consultants proceeded to construct a swale at the site. No calculations were provided to Kim for review. There was no design that was provided to Kim for review. There was no notification to Kim that it was being constructed. It was constructed over the weekend, so there wasn't an opportunity, even if there was notification, to review, what was being constructed. So, the same kind of BS, continues to go on, unfortunately, at the site. The message, I think, isn't completely getting through to these folks. But Kim, I'll let you jump in from here.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Sorry about that. The file for this site is so large, it gets to be a treasure trove. So what we're looking at right now is a submittal by EDC at our request to formalize the construction period BMPs on site. So they had been under a cease and desist. They're still under that cease and desist. So as part of that, I had requested two things. Number one, to stabilize the site, and number two, to provide some calculations and backup for the temporary construction period BMPs that had been employed on site, just because they had not been detailed in the SWIP or, didn't seem to be adequate based on the violations that we had. So just some backup. I walked the site with Peter, Vin, and Kevin and Becca from Ashland, made some suggestions for stabilization, but also for different, options, asking the applicant if they had considered additional temporary storage and how they sized things and what type of infiltration rates these things had. And when I got the package back, it didn't really seem like all of the possible solutions had been explored in my eyes. And like Jeff was saying, a swale was constructed in this location here. And Peter has indicated that some of the swale intends to be a permanent feature, which is disappointing because it was not, no town boards were given an opportunity to assess or address. And then it was, constructed over the weekend. So, my opinion continues to be that it seems like the quickest, easiest option is usually the one that gets selected without a comprehensive or critical thinking of the site conditions. Melissa smartly pointed out that the SWIP doesn't really contain information for the contractor to understand how to maintain construction period BMPs. So there continues to be problems. I will say that the applicant has stabilized the site. I can pull up photos when I find them. But they have put stone down on the entire loop road here. Almost the entire site was hydroseeded. And like I said, hydroseed has actually been taken really well over the last 2 weeks in town. So we have, and then these portions are mulched. So we do have really decent stabilization out here at this point. And I'm already seeing the effects of less runoff going less fast every time I'm out there. So I'm happy with the stabilization, but the construction period design and thought continues to be a little bit of an afterthought, I guess is my 2 cents. I did find the appropriate fine memo that the commission was discussing at the last meeting. So basically, when you take into account the violations which started in mid-July up to the violations in late August, the site was out of compliance for a period of 39 days. And so 300 per violation and then 600 per condition violated in the OOC per day adds up to $141,600. So this fine memo was provided for Mr. Gately and Mr. Bemis right before the last hearing. So at this point, they would have had it for 2 weeks. And I did not receive any additional commentary from them on this fine memo.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Yeah. Any
And they
questions, I'm
did-
happy to answer.
Yeah, so the other, so Kim, for the phase 3 portion, that detention basin along Wilson Street, they did clean that out, right? So that was another, I mean, I want to give them credit where credit is due, right? Because that was something that was identified at the last meeting. So that was taken care of, as far as we can tell. Yeah, so I'll just open up to commission members.
With the chair, this is Ed. At
Yes,
the
sir.
last meeting, Mr. Gately requested time to review the letter, to discuss it this time. The fact that they're not here, in my opinion, should not negate and provide another opportunity for them to delay further, and I think we should assess the fine.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Yeah, I would agree there. And I don't know, it just seems like anything we have approved or anything that we have required just gets ignored. And it just continues. And frankly, I'm at a loss to how do we prevent that? But I guess that's a topic for another day. And I agree that we can move forward with assessing fines, even though they're not here.
Okay.
Tim, did you get any response from that email in regard to updating a SWIP plan or anything like that? In the comments that we did provide?
I did not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I don't think I would lift the cease and desist, or I don't think we should do anything until they, I mean, other than potentially assess the fines. I don't think we have any, should feel any obligation to lift the cease and desist, or let them continue until they acknowledge and address comments.
Thank you, Melissa. So I'll entertain a motion in a second. Let me just open it up to questions or comments from the public or the audience. Okay, doesn't look like anyone's hands raised, so I guess is there a motion to assess the fines identified by Kim in the amount of 141,800, Kim? 600. $141,600.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
And the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. Capital Group Properties, a request for a certificate of compliance for Deerfield Estates. Do we have the applicant on the call? Kim, did you want to give us a little bit of background on this one, please?
Yeah, Justin DePietri here at Capital Group Properties.
Okay, how you doing, Justin?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Sure. So, trying to pull up the map. This is a COC request for a condo development. The condo development was completed about 20 years ago. So it's an oldie. There have been 2 back and forth reviews with Lucas Environmental over the past 2 years or so. And we also spoke about this condo development, I think in July, June or July. So I'm just going to run through kind of the outstanding items from the last time that we spoke. So the last time that we spoke, we were looking for operations and maintenance reports for 2021 to present. Capital Group Properties is the developer of the condominium development, and they handed off the management to a management company in 2021. So that's why the O&M reports kind of fell off. We did receive operations and maintenance reports subsequently for 2022 and 2023. The 2023 operations and maintenance report by Peoples Engineering indicated that certain items of the site were in need of maintenance, including the stormwater BMPs and cleaning of the catch basins. Capital Group reported that the stormwater basins is mowed, and the management company reported that the catch basins have not been cleaned. And I do have some photos that Justin sent me tonight of the basins. And then the other item is, at the last hearing, one of Lucas's comments was that they observed that some of the gutters had been tied into stormwater BMPs and not into infiltration or dry wells, kind of after the fact homeowner installations. And the commission had requested that a notification be provided to homeowners to educate them about, stormwater and, tying into dry wells. So Capital Group provided a draft notice for my review. I did recommend that the mailer contain some basic education for homeowners regarding stormwater and ownership requirements of the homeowner association. Capital Group refused or decided not to add that information. And then I did also hear from the management company subsequently that they also felt uncomfortable providing the mailer, and that they felt that no gutter has been installed or approved since Capital Group has left. So just the operations and maintenance, and then the downspout issue.
And the maintenance of the BMPs and catch basins needs to be documented, correct, Kim?
Yes, according to our order. So it does look like from the photos that the BMP, like the sides of the BMPs were mowed, but I'm not sure that the actual BMPs themselves were maintained. It does look like they're still full of cattails.
Okay. So is someone from Wellington Property Management on the call?
Through the chair?
Yes, Kim.
We did invite the contact at Wellington, but he declined to attend.
Okay. All right. So Justin, I think there's a few items that need to be addressed before we can issue the COC on this.
Yeah, so like Kim said, we don't manage it anymore, so we're trying. We've been on top of them for the last 2 months. We sent a memo. Even it didn't have the educational portion, but it had a notice about adding downspouts and how they wasn't to happen going forward. We were able to get them to mow the basins. They were all overgrown before. We installed the fence. There's really only so much we can do since we don't physically manage the property anymore. You know, we can't send the memo out, and I don't know, it's just, we can't clean the basins. It's just, I don't know how we move forward on our side. And it's not that we haven't been on top of them, because Kim's actually been on some of the email correspondence, and it's like she said, they said that they weren't going to send it out, so we don't have access to the contact.
You don't have access to the contacts? I'm not sure what you mean.
For the resident, for the owners that on the in the development.
Well, I mean, that's easy enough to get through the assessor's office. So, okay, well, you know, this kind of puts us in a tight spot. You know, I'm not sure how. Yes, Jim.
So I just want to say this. I appreciate everything that you're saying, but remember, Capital Group is the applicant. Capital Group is the one who needs to get the COC. The fact that you didn't get it before you gave up the ownership, that's unfortunate, but if you never transferred the order of conditions to the HOA, I assume you didn't. It's still your responsibility, because it's got to be issued to you. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I don't think the onus is on us, Justin, to, you know, take care of this. This is really between you and Wellington. You know, unfortunately, they're not responding. You know, I'm not sure how we can help you out there. But, you know.
Well, Jeff, let me add one more thing, please.
Sure.
There is an HOA, right? So it's the HOA that I assume you're reaching out to, or you need to reach out to, and, you know, maybe stress the importance of you getting the COC, because there's an encumbrance on every one of those condominiums. That the encumbrance being the order of conditions. So, you know, things have been apparently transacted over the 10 years without any real estate attorney picking up on that. But there is still that encumbrance on the title.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
We did actually have a real estate attorney reach out to us about one of these condos recently, so it is popping up for folks.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, Justin, I would, you know, reach out to Wellington. You know, in terms of the letter to the residents, I think that's something that you guys could put together and send out. You don't need Wellington's permission to do that. You know, you can get the residents' information from the assessor's office. You know, if you need Kim to review what you're putting together in terms of, you know, kind of educational types, you know, information, I think Kim's happy to review that, but, you know, I think it's unfair to ask her to put it together for you. That's not our responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, we said we would attach something. It's just, I'm not educated enough to really put together an educational pamphlet on these.
Well, it doesn't need to be a pamphlet, you know. I think a one-page letter is fine if you know, if you're not you know, if you don't know what to put together in it, you know, maybe there's someone else at your organization that does, or, you know, you might have to hire a consultant or someone to put something together for you.
Okay.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just don't think it's fair that, you know, to, you know, ask Kim or Anna to, you know, take the responsibility for something that, you know, Wellington should be doing, or you know, Capital Group should be doing at this point. So, you know, thanks for your understanding.
Okay.
Okay, Kim, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Okay, thank you, Justin.
All right.
Commission, so Ed, did you want to give us an update on your SNAP workshop and invasive species initiatives?
To the extent that I can.
Okay.
With regard to SNAP, the application has gone in. We have partnerships. I'm not sure that's the word I should use, but that's what I'm going to call them. With DCR, they have signed on. With the Department of Public Works, with Lake Maspinock Preservation Association, with Friends of Whitehall, and seemingly the Hopkinton Conservation Commission, which pleases me greatly. My late thought was Sudbury Valley trustees, and I did get to them, and I know there has been some communication between Sudbury Valley trustees and Julia Chun, but I don't know whether that actually made it onto the application. If you haven't seen the application, well, I can send that so we can share it. I think it's pretty good. One of the things I'm hoping to get is the use of skills at the high school to do water analysis. That's in communication right now. I heard from the schools today, and I laid out what I thought, assuming, of course, that we're accepted, that we'd want to do, which would be the analysis of 4 different sources, the Longwood storm drain source. So this is focused on Whitehall. This was a decision made, and that's, I guess, part of the reason why someone by the name of Kim, who we know, grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and said, "You're going to do this." So Longwood and Ralph, and there is evidence of, well, for lack of a better word, algae growing in the outfall from Ralph Road. So there's obviously some sort of algae enhancing stuff in the water. There is another storm drain that flows kind of southwesterly and eventually ends up in the Mass Pike right away. And lastly, there is a intermittent stream that comes out of the property southerly down Spring Street. And I figured that could be a baseline to have as a comparison with the other 3. So that's kind of where we are. And certainly if anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to try to answer them.
That's awesome, Ed. Thank you for working on this. So do they know when the grant will be issued? Is there like a timeline, do you know?
I'm sure somebody knows, but that somebody is not me.
Okay. All right. No, I don't have any questions, but I'll open it up to other members.
I'll just say thank you, Ed, for pursuing this.
Did you say you're working with a high school, Ed?
Sorry, Melissa?
Did you say that you're working with a high school, Hopkinton High School group?
Well, I have inquired and asked for assistance. I have not had a yes, we'll do this. I laid out what I thought our needs were and expectations.
Jeff, remember there was a high school student who reached out at one point over the summer, right, from the environmental club or?
Oh, yeah.
An environmental club at the high school. She was interested in getting involved. Maybe we can make a connection there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if someone has her name, you know where to send it.
Yeah, I'll dig it up. I'll look for that over the next couple of days, Ed, and see if I can find it and forward it to you. Yeah, it's a good catch, Melissa. Yeah, we should send her information to Ed.
And then on the invasives, I mean, this is, I have a 1-page from Wayne Mezett. Wayne Mezett has been very involved in invasive issues for about 10 years. And again, I can share this document with everybody. And I have my own sort of personal thoughts. The first is a quote that I love. I read this in a diner in Portland, Maine. It's from Van Gogh. I guess that's how you say it. Let everyone sweep in front of their own door and the whole world will be clean. So if we can educate homeowners to the issues of invasives and what are invasives, and if they can then take some responsibility, that's a step in the right direction. I think we need to prioritize on 2, knotweed and bittersweet, and we need to educate so that people know which they are and can ID locations of them. And then I said, I think we need a task force, and that can deal with knotweed. I mean, with bittersweet, but knotweed I think is going to take heavy artillery. And lastly, the thing I have is roadside knotweed. Now, personally, I have been dealing with a smallish area along Spring Street. I go every single week and I cut it down to the ground, and that's when I turned up all of the Asian jumping worms. They apparently did not like the vibration caused by the hedge trimmer shaking things up. I'm talking like an eruption. I don't know how else to describe it of these things. So I cut that down every week, and every week there's less and less that's more than a couple inches tall. And I'm hoping at the very least, well, it's not going to go to seed, and maybe it will starve those roots out. But the DPW goes through when the knotweed is at significant heights and sometimes has gone to seed, and cuts it down and basically leaves it there. And knotweed can grow up from almost nothing. So that is a really good method of encouraging it, not discouraging it. So that's all of my thoughts at this point. And the issue of knotweed on the Whitehall Conservation Area, we've dealt with a combination of the firm cutting the stalks and then injecting glyphosate or whatever the heck the stuff is into it. That's an incredibly expensive proposition to try to do that town-wide. So this is a big deal, and I really don't know how we can get our hands around it, and I'm certainly open to any suggestions.
Thanks, Ed. Okay. Any comments from the commission? Kim, do you know if we have any on the Concom page of the town website? Do we have any educational material on invasives? Do you know? I don't think we do.
I do not believe that we do, but that's certainly something that I can add.
Oh, yeah. One other thing, I've had 2 conversations with a Hopkinton realtor on this, and said party understands the potential issues of knotweed and how it can potentially affect property values, especially when you've got houses with knotweed growing up tight to the foundations, especially stone foundations where the knotweed can get in, and the roots tend to dislodge the foundation.
Yeah. Okay.
I would love to have an educational series for realtors. If only I could get them to pay attention.
Right. They'll only pay attention when it has like something that's directly affecting one of the properties that they want to sell, right? But yeah, I'll look, check around and see if there's like a informational kind of document or cut sheet or something like that that we can put up on the website, Kim. So okay.
Or to offer pastry and coffee.
Jim, you're breaking up. We can't hear you too well. Okay, Mr. Petrosi joined the meeting, so why don't we go back to the violation hearing for Wall Street Development? Kim, did you want to give us a quick update?
Sure. So the last time that we spoke about 0 Leonard Street, there had been a small violation in April. So basically there's a corner, we're looking at it now, of the property that runs off kind of the first driveway on the right. Sedimentation from the side of the driveway, and every rainstorm was kind of washing out the erosion controls and into the limit of work area you see here. So in April-May timeframe, we had requested that Mr. Petrosi repair and replace the erosion controls as necessary. And we also came to the realization that SWIP reports had been missing after August of 2021. So we requested those SWIP reports be provided as well. This photo that you're looking at is from August 18th. So you'll see that since the original time that we spoke, Mr. Petrosi did get a lot more vegetation cover on this area, which is great. I don't believe that this sedimentation that you're seeing is new. You know, I think that it had existed from the earlier violations, not to say that, you know, new sediments couldn't have moved at that point. You know, it's my opinion that the driveway is relatively stable at this point. In terms of the SWIPs, I did get one SWIP report for 2022 and one SWIP report for 2023. But, you know, just one per year. And I did draw up a fine memo for the last meeting in June that the commission was discussing for the violations. So $2,100 for the actual violation itself for 1 day. And then if the commission wanted to consider issuance for missing SWIP reports, $200 per condition for 94 weeks, $18,800. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. So good evening, Mr. Petrosi.
Hello there. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay.
So what's the status of the site now? Are you done with construction at this point?
Well, as of so the first 2 houses are occupied, landscaped. We should be submitting request for certificate of compliances on that portion or partial for where the houses and the lawn areas are. We've been attempting to do the landscaping or complete the landscaping on the 3rd house, but as you probably are aware, these rainstorms are not very friendly to us right at the moment. So we're hoping the landscaping on the 3rd house will be done next week if weather permits. I'd like to address a couple of things that maybe Kim might have overlooked in the time that we've not met. And I apologize for not being able to make the last meeting, or I missed the last meeting because I thought it was Zoom. But in any event, we have a problem that's occurring on the site that's not Wall Street's doing. I've been out there on several rainstorms, during several heavy rainstorms, to identify the flow, where the water is coming from. And quite frankly, this flow is coming from off-site onto the property and causing this erosion. And Kim had indicated, that she would bring it to the attention of the DPW and the other maybe parties that might be responsible, but I'll just go through them very briefly so that you can get an idea of what's the problem there. And it's so first off, there's 2 catch basins at the end of Box Mill Road. Box Mill Road is supposed to discharge their water into the catch basins and enter through a storm scepter through a culvert that is on our property, which we gladly allow them to do. However, the catch basin is about an inch too high, and the water is on one of the catch basins that's closest is about half an inch or an inch too high, and the water is bypassing the catch basin and flowing over surface across the street into causing this erosion. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is the grading, the work that was done in Leonard Street to install the storm scepter and do other work. There was a sewer work to the neighbor at 7 Leonard Street. All of that flow now is no longer going into the catch basin that was supposed to capture that flow and do the same thing, which is channel the surface runoff through the storm scepter, through the culvert that would typically end up on our property, which we have agreed to. But that's not happening either. And what's happening is that all of the surface flow from Leonard Street and what's bypassing Box Mill Street catch basin is flowing across the street, and it's directly where this erosion is taking place. Now we've been out there. Kim says that it's sedimentation that's been there. We must have cleaned this place a half a dozen times. And quite honestly, it's not our responsibility. I've asked the commission to address the problem by allowing us to put a more stable slope there in the form of 6-inch riprap. The commission not refused. They asked me to try and stabilize the slope with some mats, which we did. The water just blew them right away. Then we tried to do, grass. We had a stretch there where we could plant it. We did the planting, some of the grass took hold, but the flow during these storms is so significant that this is going to be an occurring problem. And quite frankly, Wall Street's not going to be responsible for things that are occurring as a result of the town. I don't know if Box Mill Way now is a public way or if it's been accepted as a public way, but this is something that the town has been causing for 30 years. So I want to cooperate with the commission as best we can. We'll be out there next week when we do the landscaping on the 3rd house, and we'll clean the entire area up for the last time. We'll stabilize it, but I would appreciate it if the commission would allow us to put some riprap in the areas that are the most susceptible to this erosion. And
which is the area right there that's on the screen.
Yeah, it's right on the corner, Jeff. It's just it's unbelievable. And then when we do pave the driveway over, we may be able to put a lip on the driveway that will keep the water from going into that corner a little bit. But unfortunately, these downpours have been so significant. I mean, I got video that will and these are just during mild storms. The video, the water just flowing right down the gutter line and just into our property. But the storm scepter was put in there as a requirement for stormwater management for the Box Mill subdivision. And if the water isn't going in there, then they've really done nothing to meet the requirements of the stormwater management guidelines. But we need some help. In other words, we just can't go in there every day, every time it rains. I think it's riprap for about maybe a 15 or 20-foot strip of riprap in that corner. And we'd like to put an end to this problem if we can. I mean, the rest of the site is stable. There's no problems. I don't think anybody will say there's problems with the rest of the site. It's just this one particular corner that has just not been able to be solved at this point.
Got it. Okay. So Kim, we did notify the DPW of the situation here, right? With the runoff from Box Mill.
I did. And, the DPW indicated that they have been in coordination with Mr. Petrosi, and that they've, been in coordination with Box Mill, and done what they can. I would note that before this development went in, the natural topography of the land was that stormwater flowed towards this area. It is the isolated, vegetated wetland area. It's the low spot of the neighborhood.
Can I say
at the same time, Ms. Petrosi is correct. There is always going to be, or in the current condition, there is that it's a hot spot. It's water is being directed, channelized for better or for worse towards that spot.
Right.
I will say that I have not heard anything from DPW regarding this situation today, or this particular situation. I mean, several months ago, we had litigation against Mr. Barberi because he didn't construct the drainage properly, and we had him install additional catch basins to capture the water and keep it off of our property. But if we hadn't done that, we would be inundated with water like unbelievable. I mean, this place would be like an ocean. So I'm just looking for a solution that is satisfactory to everybody. We're at the end of the project for the most part, and I really do think to stabilize this thing, we need some riprap and some, maybe some other measures that we may have to put some permanent barriers down at the bottom to keep any more erosion from entering into that area.
Yeah, I think putting the lip on the driveway when you do the final coating with the pavement is probably a good idea, along that area. That will help the problem.
And one other thing, Jeff, I don't mean to interrupt, but we don't have this, the water that's flowing through the culvert that's there with the riprap at the end of the, the outlet. We don't have this erosion problem there. And there's obviously more water going onto the site other than this particular overflow surface runoff. There's more water going through the culvert. We don't have an erosion problem with the riprap at the outlet pipe like we do here. It's just so. Yeah, I guess I'll do whatever you guys want me to do, but I think our engineer suggests riprap.
Yeah. So Joe, Kim, Melissa, I mean, does it make sense, in this area, kind of at the corner here below the number 8 placard of putting riprap in? I mean, I think I'm amenable to that unless there's a, reason that you don't think we should do it. Because I agree. I think we're going to continue to have this water shedding off this part of the driveway here and continue to erode this section, until the stormwater catch basins are repaired, and who knows when that'll be. But I guess, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it sounds like there's more water going there than it was designed for or anticipated. Is all the sediment that ends up there just coming from that side of the driveway, or is there sediment being carried from upstream onto your site?
Well, I think that. Go ahead.
I think it's just the side of the driveway. From what I've seen from rainstorms, it's not a significant amount of sediment coming from upstream.
There's some that comes across the street that washes across Leonard Street, and that it's not as significant as what you see there. But I think what's happening is that we continue to restore it, and we're actually causing more of a problem because that creates more sediment. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's the same stuff that just keeps ending up back there.
Yeah, so when we relume it and reseed it and it erodes, it just adds more sediment to the whole process, you know. So I think the object is to get rid of the sediment, put the riprap down, and then hopefully that solves the problem.
Through the chair.
You can see this photograph where we had the mats down, and the water just blew right through them.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, there was some success here. Just noting.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just that one corner right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Joe.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. When I looked at the site, I thought that a low lip or berm at the end of the driveway would work here to help direct that water away from the slope and further down the street into the drainage along the side of the street.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, are you guys against putting the riprap in the corner there?
I'm not.
Through the chair, this is Ed. I just wonder if the riprap is a Band-Aid that will gradually, water will get underneath it and start to wash away what's underneath it. But this is not my school or village.
That's true. And we can get DPW or whoever it is, Barbieri, to take care of that water that's coming across the street. That has to be part of it.
And I will say that my feeling would be to make sure that this problem doesn't continue is, well, I think we would excavate out a lot of that material there and maybe put a 2-foot depth of riprap, not just cover up what's there. In other words, we have to clean it up, excavate it down a little bit, and put a substantial amount of riprap there so that the water doesn't wash away what's underneath. That's what my engineer has recommended to us.
Yeah, it could definitely get under mine.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. Melissa, is that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think digging out to put the riprap or the stone in makes sense. Not just laying it on top.
Yeah. Kim, are you okay with it?
Yes, I guess my question to Lou would be like, what's the approximate length of the riprap section? Like, how far are we intending to go with it?
Well, I won't know until I go out there and see what this photograph here was several months ago. I'll mark it out, I'll paint it out, and I'll send you a photograph, and you can say yes or no, too much or too little. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just wanted to clarify the commission's intent is to riprap the sections that are failing, but not necessarily the length of the driveway.
Oh yeah, no, we wouldn't do the whole length of the driveway. Okay. I mean, the homeowner wanted the whole length of the driveway, but we're just talking about the radius right there where you see the erosion right now. That's primarily the spot. Mm-hmm. And, maybe we'll put something more sturdy down at the bottom where the siltation barrier is to create some sort of a stop gap point there so nothing goes past it. But that's my engineer's suggestion, what we should do.
Okay, yeah, if you can mark it out, send a picture to Kim, Mr. Petrozzi, that would be great. Um, and,
Chair,
I'm sorry.
through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
If we excavate right up to the side of the pavement and put in a bunch of crushed stone there, whatever, does the edge of the pavement become unsupported potentially and start to break down?
And that's a very good point, Mr. Chairman. May I, we are concerned. You can see in this photograph that's on the screen is that there was some undermining of the driveway with the runoff that was coming through there. So we will have to do some repair work there, put some gravel down, compact it, and do what you're saying. Put some stone down, but not underneath the driveway, but just off the driveway, so that it doesn't undermine the gravel that's there as the base of the driveway. So it can be a little bit tricky for this kind of remedial repair, but we're going to do what we think will work. And I'm on the hook with the homeowners. If it doesn't work, and the driveway is undermined, I have to go, it's my responsibility to make sure that that's repaired. So we want to do it the right way the first time.
Okay. So any other questions from the commission? So if you can mark that out, Mr. Petrosi, send it to Kim. I mean,
okay.
We're talking about this area right here, pretty much, not much farther down the length of the driveway than what we're seeing here.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And hopefully, if the weather cooperates, we'll get it done next week, and I'll send you photographs to update.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So just going back to the situation with the fines, I just want to open it up to commission members on how we want to handle this.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
I am not on Mr. Petrosi's payroll. I want to make that clear. If these reports were not filed, is the onus totally on Mr. Petrosi that they're not being filed, or do we bear some responsibility for not having noticed that they've not been filed?
Well, ultimately, it's Mr. Petrosi's responsibility to submit them, but it was an oversight,
No, through the chair.
Yeah, sorry, Kim, go ahead.
I asked for SWIP reports on many, many occasions through many different avenues, emails, notices. I can dig some up if you'd like, but yeah, certainly I asked for SWIP reports on many occasions. So I wouldn't say, I would say that it went unnoticed probably for the last 3 to 6 months, but not for the entirety of 2022. Certainly.
Excuse me for 1 second. Kim, didn't you receive all of the SWIP reports that we provided you?
Yep. So I received 1 report for 2022 and 1 report for 2023. So I got 2 more.
What were all those reports that we gave you?
They were all reports that they were already filed. They were for 2021 that we had already received.
Right. I think we need to, and I understand the requirement for SWIP reports, but my understanding is that, for example, if you were to look at the reports that we submitted to you, we stopped them in November. We didn't do the site wasn't active, and there are certain parameters under the SWIP where reports were not due, or they're, in my experience in other situations where my reports that I submitted to you on a regular basis via emails and photographs were comparable to or acceptable as substitute for the SWIP reports, the forms themselves. So, I'd appreciate the commission's consideration. I don't really want to argue one way or the other at this point, but I think the site is very stable. We've had very, very little problems on the site. And so I think, the SWIP reports are an administrative thing that I personally am not involved with. It's the SWIP, whoever the agent is, Goddard Consulting. They're responsible for getting the SWIPs to you, not particularly me.
But they work for you.
Well, yeah, you could say that. Put their kids through college.
Okay, well, let's get this area stabilized here. We'll put the discussion on the violations on hold for now.
Okay. Appreciate it.
We can address those at another meeting. But let's get this area stabilized. Kim, does that make sense? Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, I can refute Mr. Petrosi's assertions on the SWIP reports, but if the commission doesn't feel like it's relative, we can table it.
No, I think it is relative. I think it is relative.
Yeah, so certainly the CGP states that if there's winter dormancy on the site, frozen conditions over winter, that the SWIPs do not need to be submitted. And also if there's dry conditions, you can spread the SWIPs out every 7 days. So over the course of winter of 22, winter of 23, perhaps there were some periods where the site was frozen. I don't think it was frozen for the entire winter based on the winter that we had. So, perhaps we missed 4 to 8 SWIPs because of frozen conditions. In terms of site updates from Mr. Petrosi occasionally, I would say every 3 to 6 months, might send me an email update about the progress on the site, but certainly not an update about, doing observations of the erosion and sedimentation control and reporting on its status. So I would not consider those to be of the caliber needed to constitute a SWIP report. Additionally, as per the updated CGP 2022, the SWIP inspectors are actually supposed to be going through specialized erosion and sedimentation control training. So they need to be CPSCs, CESSIs, or pass the EPA's erosion and sedimentation control training. So Mr. Petrosi would actually not technically be qualified to do the SWIP inspections regardless.
Well, I like the chairman's suggestion.
So, it just depends on what the commission would like to do with this situation, obviously.
Yeah, I got to think about it, Kim. Unless, Melissa, unless someone else in the commission has a strong opinion as to, what we want to do at this point in time.
I think Jeff, I agree with Kim that there's a certain standard that we should expect for a SWIP inspection report, especially if Mr. Petrosi's paying someone to do them and Goddard's being paid to do them. They should be providing. It is Mr. Petrosi's responsibility to make sure we're getting, the SWIP reports, because if they're not actually passed in, it's like homework at school. You don't get credit until the teacher gets it. And that's why you pay a professional to do it, to meet that standard. And certainly the 2022, the new standard that went into place by EPA is more stringent with the training and the requirements. So I think going forward, we want to set a standard as a commission of what we're expecting for SWIPs, and by not collecting them or just, letting them off the hook if they don't get submitted, no one's ever going to submit them going forward if they know that the commission doesn't collect or, take them seriously. So
that's a good point.
maybe there's a middle ground for this. But I don't know. I think about it, but that's going through my head anyway.
Yeah. Janine, did you have any thoughts? Janine, Ed, Jim?
Yes, I was on mute. Yeah, through the chair. I mean, regarding all of the fines, I would be more apt to maybe not impose the fine for the stormwater violation itself, just because there is sort of some potential question about the source of the water, but the SWIP reports being completely in the control of the applicant, I would be more apt to assess fines there. Especially because it's not an option where, well, the site was okay, so I didn't need to submit them. They need to be submitted. And I'm not saying we have to do it tonight. The important part is getting that stabilized. So if you want to table it, that's fine. But I would be more apt to, like I said, assess fines in that area.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Okay, so Kim, why don't we, to the point where, maybe some of the reports didn't need to be submitted because of frozen conditions or dry conditions during certain areas or certain seasons in 2022 and 2023, maybe we can kind of reevaluate the, what the violation was there in terms of the SWIP reports being submitted, and table that to the next meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense with everyone?
Fine with me.
Okay. Okay,
certainly, I think if Mr. Petrosi wants to talk to Goddard and provide any additional information, he could do that between now and then too.
Yeah.
All the work isn't on Kim.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. So, Mr. Petrosi, if you can touch base with Goddard, and find out what, why the reports weren't submitted to the commission.
Okay, I will do that, and I appreciate your consideration. And do we want to continue this till the end of the middle of October, or?
Yeah, let's continue this to our October 10th meeting. So not the next meeting, but the following one.
Yeah.
That's a Zoom meeting. Or, yeah, let's do it. Let's push it to the October 10th meeting, 2 meetings from tonight.
Okay, that would be fine with me.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
Second,
this is Ed.
All right, I think Melissa beat you to the punch. Ed, we'll do the roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Janine?
aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, all right, thanks, Mr. Petrosi.
Hey, great, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Kim, Mr. Bemis joined while we were having our conversation with Mr. Petrosi. So Mr. Bemis, we'll just give you a quick update. We discussed the project situation. We're not going to kind of walk through it again. You can watch the recording tomorrow on HCAM. But we talked about the information that was provided to the commission recently. Melissa went through it as a professional engineer with stormwater expertise and had some commentary that was provided back to you. Mr. Bemis, you're on the call, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So we haven't gotten a reply as of yet. We noted that Kim updated us that the swale was constructed at the site, but we have not received any associated design calculations or drawings associated with that as
No,
of yet.
contrary, sir, you did. That's what the calculations are based upon. Was this swale that is there, and that's why it was implemented. So the program that we gave you is what is shown on this plan.
Okay.
And the suggestion that Kim had was to not have that interceptor, and that's what we went back and looked at doing, and it made no sense. There's too much water that goes off to the north, and we had experience of water actually going off on a trail that is there in the northeast. So we just were like, you know what, this site, we have the chance to stabilize it in September. We will not have the chance to stabilize it in October or November if we have a problem. So therefore, we're going to put that in. And as part of the home construction that's planned in that same stretch, those are units 26 to 36. There is a swale at the rear of those units to ensure that the water goes to detention basin 3. So it's all part of the overall plan. This is not a site plan change. What we felt was that these small chutes, as we're calling them, had the potential to not only trap sediment, which is what the calculation on the 1-inch basis was, because that's what the experience was, is that we were capturing it at that basis. So we did an analysis at that and had a volume for it. But the basin itself is designed for the whole project when the whole project is built out. But the goal here was to have no more stormwater siltation events. So that's really what the purpose of constructing that was to put it in place at a timeline when we could actually ensure that it was developed properly and would do the job that it's intended to do. And it's built, it's seeded. We use the same FlexTerra product, and I have grass growing there now. And hopefully we don't get a ridiculous amount of rain tomorrow, and we'll probably be in great shape. So that thank you for bringing that up. So it's sheets 16, 17 does show that is an area where the water is going to be directed to the basin long term. There's an intersection of swales or trails that are shown there. The topography in that zone is not what's shown on this plan. We did not do the original survey work here. So we found that water was heading off to the east and to the north, right in that corner. And it just was a recipe for disaster if we didn't do something about it. And that's the purpose of the SWEP, was to recognize a field problem and to address it, and we've done so. So I would ask that if Melissa is the professional engineer that's going to do the review, I'd be happy to provide her with the calculations, have her speak directly with Walter or Phil Paradis. He's going to be the review agent.
Hold on, Mr. Bemis.
Yes, sir.
All right, we don't need to get cute. Okay,
I'm not trying to get cute. I want to resume work, Mr. Chairman.
Please. I think you know that
sir.
Melissa isn't going to be reviewing the calculations going forward.
Okay.
She's
well,
a commissioner.
If Mr. Paradis could make himself available to look at what we submitted, I'd be grateful for that.
Okay. All right. So that's in process. He's going to take a look at it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just so you know, the commission did vote to impose the fine for the site that was compiled at the last meeting. We didn't hear back from Mr. Gately on that.
I know he was trying to get on to the meeting tonight. He's away, and he was trying to use his phone to do so. So I'm sorry that our matter came up. I was monitoring earlier, and just the process was slowed, so I just didn't think you'd get to us before 9 o'clock. So I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Okay. We'd like to discuss that with you further, but obviously, if you've ratified it, then we'll do our discussions as we need to. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think that's it for tonight.
Okay. Well, I would ask that if we could we would like to resume work. We've got a stabilized site, and I would like the opportunity to have the peer review engineer comment so that we can make any amends and then resume work when we can, please.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night. Okay. Kim, were there any public hearing?
Well, not public hearing, but
public forum requests?
None.
Okay. All right. I think that covers the agenda for this evening. Unless I missed something, which I think we covered everything.
Well, if you have,
I'm sorry, Jim, what was that? Okay. If I can have a motion to adjourn the meeting for tonight? Okay, so Jim made the motion, Ed seconded, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ed? And I'm an aye. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Okay, good night.
Night.
Kim, are you in the office tomorrow?
I am in the office for the afternoon. I'm at home in the morning.
Okay, but you're not in the field, right? Like,
No.
Okay, all right. I'll touch base with you tomorrow if that's okay.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.